is Music Parley.
And we are on. So I was scrolling on social media a few weeks ago and I came across the Coda Collectiv initiative. Needless to say, I found it very interesting because I have quite similar goals in the Music Parley podcast, which essentially is to educate and provide young people that want to enter the music business with a kind of survival kit for a lasting a career in music. So I checked the Coda website. I found it to be very well structured with a lot of useful information delivered really intuitively, a sort of ABC guidebook for people with an interest in music. So obviously I wanted to learn more and get to know the people behind it. And so in today's episode, I have the pleasure of chatting with Louisa Rochdi herself, the co-founder of Coda Collectiv. Welcome, Lou.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm very excited about this talk.
I am as well.
Yeah, very, very happy that you contacted me too. So,
well, great tracks, great. I guess you did amazing work with that. So
thank you very much.
Let's dive into it. How did you get started in music?
So I'd say my music journey started very early on, and it's something that I always forget to tell people these days, but I kind of remember that recently, which is so weird to say. I started music by being a classical pianist. I started learning that when I was 7 years old, which is kind of early, and I learned for 12 years at the French Conservatory of Music. So pretty much my whole life at this point, and I stopped when I decided to go to college because I couldn't pursue that anymore. But that's kind of my first introduction to music. It was through the classical worlds, through music theory and all of that. And then I'd say it kind of changed when I was 18 years old because I participated for the first time in a rock band when I was in high school. It was not my rock band, but they needed a pianist. So they asked me to join. And it was an amazing experience because we played a couple of shows and it was just, I loved it. I loved discovering, but I loved most discovering the behind the scenes. Like the actual being on stage wasn't really my thing, but I loved seeing the sound check and all of that. And from there, when I went on to college, I got very involved in what we call student government, which is basically just a group of students who got elected each year to organize events for the university. So the events are quite big. It's galas, it's parties, but it's also part concerts all the time. And my favorite part, of course, was the concerts. I loved that, and I was in charge of filming it, so working with the sound engineers to get the sound, setting up the cameras, filming the band, and kind of doing the editing at the end. And just being surrounded by music was basically what made me the happiest. And it took me a little bit of time to understand that, but I think the pandemic kind of was a slap in the face. Like I got to sit down with myself and kind of thought of all of that, and I was like, okay, music is definitely something I want to pursue. I like the happiest moment of my life were when I worked with musicians and when I was around music. And I don't think being on stage is my thing. I think being in the backstage is my thing. And that's when I kind of was like, okay, now I want to learn everything that I can about being backstage. And I think that's where kind of Coda started, discovering that there was very few information online, and so we kind of wanted to change that. But that's kind of my music journey, I would say.
That's amazing. I can really empathize and sympathize with that because I think everybody goes through like a similar kind of situation when they're young in school, maybe activities, maybe friends, and you just get exposed to it and you feel it like this is for you. I saw that you did a lot of work in the States, either through your Joe D'Ambrosio internship or through becoming a Grammy U member. Could you expand on those experiences a little bit? What did you do exactly? And what did you learn there?
Exactly. So all of these experiences were from this year, by the way. So it's very new, but it's gonna become even more because I'm moving to LA in a month and a half. So a lot of that's gonna become even more in the future. So my internship was Joe D'Ambrosio. I met him through a professor at UCLA because I did 1 year abroad at UCLA, but technically I was still in Paris because of COVID, but that's life, it happens. So I met this amazing professor called David Leaf, and we really kind of bonded, and he wanted to help me out. So he got me to meet with Joe D'Ambrosio, who's a manager of Behind the Glass artists. So basically anyone that is not on stage. So the producer, the mixer, the master, sound engineers, arrangers, basically anyone that work in the studio to make the music come to life. And so yeah, we got along very well, and he wanted me to help out. So I basically worked with him for 4 months by doing the connection between New York and basically every French label in France. Because of course I'm French, so I'll use that to my advantage. So I basically reached out to A&Rs in France, to labels, to managers, basically explained to him what's the French scene in music scene in France. So he kind of understood who were the artists, and his clients already worked with some people in France. So he already knew a little bit of what was happening, but I kind of changed it up a little bit, presented the new ones that appeared for the past few years and everything. And so I was basically kind of helping him get more opportunities for his clients in France. So that was a very cool experience, because I really got to work at the limit, or at the crossover between the US and Europe. And I really loved that. And it made me realize also how the business is done very differently from France to the United States. I'd say in France, we're more formal, when in the United States, it's a little bit more chill. So the way Joe was writing his email, when I was translating them, I had to kind of adapt to the French way of talking and the French way of doing business. So it was kind of a very cool, interesting experience at the crossover of the both. And then GrammyU is this program that is offered to US students. So you have to be in a US university. So I used my year abroad to get in, kind of. And it's basically, so the Grammy Museum and the Grammy organization, the Recording Academy, basically provides classes, mentors, or any type of help to help students who want to get into the music industry to actually get into the music industry. So it's more of a I'd say kind of in an internship, but not an internship. It's kind of a class. It's kind of like a university. And so it's not work. It's just, you go to those events, you meet those people. I think when it was in person, it was a lot of going backstage to concerts, or meeting the artist, or being there at sound check to know how everything worked. Right now it's mostly online events, but I don't know how it will evolve in the future. So that was kind of my 2 US experiences, but I'm going to have more next year for sure. So looking forward to that.
That's amazing. It seems like you've done a lot of networking. How's networking done over there?
It's completely different from France. That's one thing I can say. I think, and I don't want to say bad things, but I think networking in France is not seen as such a positive thing. Most of the time it's seen as this, ooh, you're kind of privileged because you have your network and other people don't have it. And so it's a very weird, I was very uncomfortable with that when I tried to network here, which is kind of weird because it's my own country, so it should be easier. But I think in the US it's much more easy. I don't know, people respond if you contact them with a nice enough message. If you show interest in their work, they can even schedule just an interview with you to kind of talk, yeah, what do you want to do? How can I help? Or if you want to understand their job and ask a few questions, they can respond to that. So I feel like networking in the US is easier for sure. It doesn't necessarily mean that in the end you'll find a good friend, or it doesn't often lead to anything. But if you have any questions, if you want to understand something, people are much more approachable and respond more often than what I've experienced here in France, for sure. And yeah, I'm surprised of how much networking I did in the past 6 months, being not even in the US yet. People were very, very approachable from a distance, even from Zoom. I don't know how it is in real life. We'll see that. But they were and I would recommend anyone, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to American people, because you'll probably get an answer. And even if it's not the next day, even if it's in 2 or 3 weeks, sometimes it even take months, they will often respond. I'd say like 80% of the time.
We definitely should learn that from them. This is a very good lesson.
Yeah.
Listening to you speaking about the French networking scene it's very relatable, because it's kind of like, it's the same basically here. Networking is frowned upon for some reason.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
Why? It does. I mean, I get it and I don't. It's like, I don't know. I feel like networking in France, it's harder to find people you want to meet. But when you find someone, the relationship go further than in the US. It's like more, they will really like become a close friend or a close mentor, which is a little, but you have to get to that point where you have one person responding to you. And I feel like sometimes when you're a student and you just need to talk to someone, even to just understand what they're doing, like, oh, I've heard about that, but I would love to learn more. Is this really something I'm interested in? Is this really something I want to do? You kind of need these like first people who just explain to you the basics, or like to have the time to talk to you. And getting to that point in France is just so hard. I don't know why. I wish I can change that in the future. I wish our generation kind of understand from our struggles and be more approachable for the younger generations. I hope this can happen. But yeah, very different networking cultures, I would say.
For sure. Hopefully we can keep the Europeans, as I've noticed, is like, exactly like you said, after the ice is broken and you develop some kind of relationship and rapport with that person, it's more authentic, and it's more likely to last longer and be more of a substance type relationship than just an elevator conversation or elevator pitch or whatever. So maybe if we can keep that and add the US approachability, I think that would be the best of both worlds.
Yeah, agree.
Coming back to Coda, how you kind of touched a bit on how it got started, but I would really want to hear like the whole story, how it got started, and especially how do you see it develop in the future? Like, what are the goals for it?
Yeah, so Coda, I think started, so I'm one of the co-founders, and when I started to get into the music industry and really into it, like really searching everything, I think the first thing that anyone searches is probably like, what's the difference between the manager and the agent, or like the manager and the label? Something that like when I start, now it's like obvious to me, but at the time it wasn't obvious. And so I was searching for all of that in like probably October last year, and I was just not finding anything. And so I got very frustrated. I was like, why isn't there anything? Like Google has been there for like 10, 20, 30 years and there is nothing about the music industry. How come this is not, even Wikipedia doesn't do it? And I was so confused. And so it was always in the back of my mind of like, I want to reach out to these professionals. I want to create those resources myself. I want to understand. So I was going to do it anyways. But then in February, I started participating to those networking events. And actually the first ever networking event I went to, the first person I got matched to became my co-founder. So the story, I don't know why, I don't know what the karma did to us. They put us together in that room and we started talking and we completely like understood. She's from China and she's currently studying in the US. So we have a lot of like shared experiences of being like an international student in the US and struggling with that. And we had kind of the same goals and everything. And we just really vibed, I would say. And so a couple of days later, we met again at another event. And so we're like, okay, this is a lot of meeting. Like this must mean something. And so I asked her, do you mind if we create a group for like international students or students in general who want to motivate each other to pursue like the music industry? So like going to events, we would send, yeah, I found this event today. And so we could send the event on the group and everyone would go. Or like, oh, I have this question. Or, oh, have you understood what the guy said right now? Like just basically asking our questions without like having a space basically where we could ask everything and share, kind of motivate each other. And so it started as this like group, messenger group, where we all talked in it. And then we were like, you know what? We've always been talking for like weeks now. Let's Zoom. Let's do a Zoom where we all meet each other like face to face. We did that. And from that Zoom, we were like, I don't know why everything kind of snowballed. And we're like, let's take the step further and let's actually like do this research and put it into a format for other students. So it's just not us struggling right now, but our struggles will help other people in the future. And so basically from there, we gathered a bunch of people that were interested in the project, and we built Coda. It was founded, I don't even remember, because everything went so fast in February. Everything was there. I'd say it was founded like maybe 15th or 16th of February. And from there, we started doing the first talk, the logo, the colors, and then the research. What do we research first? How do we research it? We struggle getting those interviews, because how do you ask professionals about a project they've never heard about, they've never seen, they don't know if you're serious or not. And we basically just kind of struggled to get that point started. And then 4 months later, we had a final product, the website that we currently have. We worked a lot on the visuals, we wanted to make this information fun, engaging, and not just like a bunch of paragraphs that you don't want to read. Because I mean, we're all very young in that group, and Gen Z has an attention span of half a second. So really needed to have this thing that was straightforward, at the same time good for beginners, but also if you want to get a little more in depth, you can. So yeah, the story of how we got created is so blurry to me. And I still don't know how I could meet all of these people. Also, the fact that we got a graphic designer, that we got a web designer, someone who knows how to code. Like, how did we get to that point where the group actually was so diverse that it allowed us to do what we are doing now? I have no idea. It was kind of the destiny, it was the universe, I don't know, but I'm very proud of what we've achieved. And then for the future, we kind of want to expand to like all sectors of the music industry. Right now, we've just presented the label. We're currently working on the artist team, so everything management related, the attorney, the agent, creative director, the manager, business manager, all of that shit, all of that part. And in the future, we want to do touring, publishing, streaming, basically all areas of the music industry. And then we have also other ideas, but I don't think I can talk about that for now.
Okay. What about the hierarchy? How is it structured? What kind of culture do you have within the Coda community?
Interesting question. I really like that question because I'm very passionate about that. So before Coda, I've been in different projects, especially student government in college, taught me so much about how to organize work and what to do, and especially what not to do. Coda started as this, everyone kind of this on the same level, except for me and my co-founder. We were meeting a lot more on the side to organize everything and kind of like establish the vision. I think when I was in college, what I learned is you need people on top to kind of inspire where we're going and keep this idea of what's the goal, when are we reaching it, and how are we doing it? Because not everyone, like if everyone thinks about that all the time, first of all, it's tiring and it's not efficient, but also you kind of need that person or these person to guide the team, I would say. And so we really took that like as the beginning, being like, okay, that's how we're gonna do it. We didn't know though. We struggled a lot at first, but we learned along the way. And then when it started to become a little too much for us, because we couldn't do everything ourselves, we had like team working on social media, teams working on the web, we decided to create head of teams. So we had 4 teams. We have web design, content design, editorial, which is basically the people working on doing the research, and social media. And so we have one head for each of these teams. And basically these heads organize each of their teams. So for instance, I'm not in social media. I don't know what's going on. I mean, I know from the head, but I'm not here at the meetings. But the head kind of reports to, like we have a leaders meeting every week where we kind of all gather the information. And then, yeah, the decision for now, I mean, we haven't taken drastic decisions yet, so I don't know how that will end up, but it's mostly the leaders that just kind of gather around and talk. And we really like getting the opinions of other people and gathering. It's not like this is how we're going to do it and that's it. You know, it's very much of like gathering everyone's thoughts
Inputs,
and inputs, exactly. Do you think this is a good idea? Do you think this is very bad and it's a huge mistake? We really like, because we're all learning here. We don't know. It's not like I have 10 years of experience and I know exactly what are the pitfalls and what to avoid. So we really pay attention to that. And I think for me, one of my most important thing and most important value for Coda is to actively communicate. I make sure that every team knows what the other teams are doing and that everyone knows what's going on. Because what in my other projects, what I discovered is one of the huge mistakes is when people don't communicate in between teams. And then one team doesn't know what the others is doing. And so one team does one thing and then the other is like, no, we haven't finished. No, we're not. And so it creates those huge conflicts because people don't know what's going on. You need to know what's going on. You need to communicate. You need to share that information. It will avoid so much conflict. So many conflicts will be avoided. And I'm very proud to say that for now, we haven't had one, which is kind of crazy. I don't know how we're doing that, but it's actively communicating and something that I really want to reinforce all the time. And I'm always checking with each team. Do you have everything you need? Is there something? Do you need more people? Do you need more help? Is there an issue with someone? Sometimes some people are just not here. And so you need to catch up the work. So, okay, do you want me to put someone else on the task to help you out? What are your needs and what do you need right now? Basically, yeah, what are your needs? That's something I feel like most of the time I'm doing HR and like just talking to people, but I feel like it's very necessary if we want to move forward and don't have conflicts. Yeah.
I was reading this story like some years ago about entrepreneurship and about a group of people basically moving along through the jungle. And the group of people was split into 3 groups. The main group were the workers, which were basically making the way through the forest and cutting the leaves and all of that. Then in front of them was the manager, the head, to keep them motivated and, you know, come on, like there's the light at the end of the tunnel, like we're nearly there and all of that. And then there was the leader that used to go up in the trees and see the direction to go in. And basically, so you basically described exactly that. And I don't know how you got there, but you got the recipe perfectly.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, again, I think I got there because when I was in the student organization, and it's crazy because you're like, this is just a student organization. Most people, and even when they, like recruiters, when they see that on a resume, most of the time they don't take it that seriously. But the number of things that this student organization has taught me about how to work, because we organized events of thousands of people. We needed to get organized. If it didn't work, like security, all of that, like so many things, brands, we were doing brand partnerships. We were doing so much. And what I learned is that when the people at the head are not doing this like communications work and checking with each team what they're doing and if they need anything, a lot of the time the heads of each individual team will get very frustrated because they'll have to take upon the work of like communicating with each other when they shouldn't. There should be one person coordinating everything. They get very frustrated and then they'll burn out, which is what happened in most of the case in like different teams. And then you get frustrated because you're like, but you're the president and you're not doing your work. Like I shouldn't do that. And then everyone starts fighting. And then it's more of like when you have one conflict, it gets you so far away from your points. And it's so not, I don't like to use the word efficient, but it's so not, because you're just spending so much energy on something so negative that could have been avoided. And so for me, it's like, I really want to avoid having anyone burn out, having anyone just feeling so frustrated because someone is not doing their job, or I really want to avoid that. So yeah, I feel like this experience really has taught me a lot on what not to do. And that right now we can avoid that a lot with Coda, and it's amazing.
I wanted to ask you something, but you kind of already answered, although I think you do more than that. at a certain point. I know that in a startup like environment, which this is, everybody has multiple hats on, depending on what's needed and different things they gotta do, especially in management. What are your hats within the group? Like, what is it exactly? Yeah. What is it
A
exactly
lot
that
of
you do?
hats. It changed over time for sure. But a lot of them, I think I'm very, very involved in the editorial team and so what we called content design, which doesn't exist anymore. Basically, content design were the people who would take the content, so basically the writing of editorial, and design the formula, like how it appears on the website. Basically, all the education pages were designed by content design, and all the web pages were designed by web design, like all the other things. But we really wanted one team to focus only on this, because when you design these education pages, it's more than just visuals. It's also, I know it's a French word and I know it exists in English, but I don't know how to pronounce it. Pedagogy. Yeah, exactly. It's a lot of that. Yeah, exactly. So it's a lot of that. You have to take that into account. How to get my information? How can people understand it, and as well being visually like appealing? So I was very, very involved in the design of everything, in the design of the education pages, on the design of the website, especially the website. I was very, very involved in that. And I'm still am. I'd say we have two people that are very, very involved in design. We have one, the creative director for everything social media related, which is Jordan. She's absolutely amazing. The Instagram is all hers. And just the visual identity of our Instagram is something I'm super proud of. It's just absolutely amazing. And then for the visual identity and the creative direction of the website, that's mostly me, I would say. So that's something I was very, very into. And right now I'm doing more, since we've kind of finished the website and it's going on like automatically now. It's something that is just, we have the formula, so it will be easier in the future. I'm doing a lot of reaching out to people, a lot of like PR work, contacting colleges, contacting student organizations, all of that. And a lot of more business and legal work also, more of the management side. But at first I would say, yeah, I was very involved in the editorial, the writing, and the designing of the education part. Basically is what I was most passionate about. I really want, like, education for me is something that is so important. It can go, if you educate people properly, first of all, they know that these jobs exist, so they will reach out for them. But also education, like, knowledge is power. So getting your point across and getting that information across for me was so important that I was very, very, very involved into that. And then basically all Coda members have different hats. Mostly, we have most people that are in like 2 or 3 teams. So it's like, yeah, we kind of do a little bit of everything.
Yeah, that's a startup environment. Which is the most fun hat for you to wear out of everything?
Definitely. I like doing a lot of things, so I like to be involved in too much. I should start to, I'm trying to like take a little step back on certain stuff because that's a lot of work right now. But yeah, getting involved in different things is definitely more fun than just sticking to one thing.
Is it one in particular that you enjoy more than the rest?
Ooh, I don't know. I don't think so. I really like doing everything. I don't think there's one thing that's kind of stands out. Yeah, stands out. I don't think so. I like doing everything.
Man, I feel this entrepreneurial spirit and fire within you. Do you have like do you come from an entrepreneurial family, or did you take inspiration from somewhere else?
Absolutely not. So both of my parents are math teachers at first. My mom is now a professor in university, and my dad has changed into more of a, how do you say that? He works in no, he's more into the management side. He started as a professor in university, but now he's more in the management of that rather than actually teaching. But both of them are very, I would say, traditional in the sense of like, yeah, you go to university for 5 years and then you get your diploma, and in France professors are like, it's a public job, so once you're in there you're probably like guaranteed a job for life, and like it's the safe route. It's really the safe route. And so when I start talking with them about anything related to Coda, first of all, they don't understand anything, and they're like, the first time I talked to them about Coda, they really did not care. And once it kind of got interesting and I kind of needed their help, that's when I realized they didn't listen the first time, because I had to re-explain everything. They really did not listen. They did not care. So I don't know where that comes from. I really don't know why, but definitely like the startup environment and being like on not multiple projects, but being very versatile is something that I think is one of my strengths. And I would really thrive in that startup environment. But family-wise, everyone is so traditional that they don't understand. And for them, it's like, she'll finish unemployed. Like nothing is like, that's not going well. And I'm like, okay, I kind of gave up. I was like, okay, they won't understand anyway. So that's okay.
Where did you take your inspiration from then?
I don't know. I don't think I was always working on so many projects growing up, like short films, or like I was leading my own stuff all the time. And just being like, yeah, this summer I want to do a short film about, what was it again? The 60s or the 70s and music in the 70s or something like that. I was like, okay, so I gathered all my friends. So you're going to do this, you're going to do that. Okay, are available at this time? Okay, like I was just like leading all of that growing up. And I would say I always did amazing in school, like grade wise. And I don't know, I think I was never very involved in it as much because I was doing all of those things on the side. And I would say that those things on the side really what made me happy and what made me want to continue. I remember for my French baccalaureate I had the concerts from my rock band at night, and the next morning at like 1 p.m. I had one of my exams for my French baccalaureate. So I was just how did my parents accept that? I don't know, but it was just like, yeah, I was doing all these things at the same time. And I think it kind of was natural in a sense, like it was born from that, and then continued in college, same thing. I wasn't very involved in classes. I was spending most of my time in student organization. People were like, you need to stop working so hard for this. I was like, I don't know, but I really want to do it. And then Coda, same thing, spend more time mostly on Coda and not on classes. So I don't really know where that came from, but it kind of built up gradually, I would say.
It came from yourself, I think. So if there's no inspiration and everything just happened effortlessly, it was just like attracts like, I guess, and you just attracted the kind of people you are, and stuff just happens, which is the best way to happen, by the way, because you don't really feel the effort.
Yeah, definitely.
So what is the ideal destination you'd like to reach professionally? Where do you see this going?
I mean, I'm having a hard time kind of imagining myself in like 5 or 10 years. Like people often ask you that. Yeah, what do you see yourself doing in 5 years? And for the longest time, I had no idea. And I was like, I don't know. And I think for the past few months, I was, Coda aside, before Coda even started, I really saw myself working in touring and anything related to, organizing concerts and like basically making an artist's vision come to life so the fan enjoy it. I love the aspect of touring, which is traveling. First of all, I know that a lot of people hate that because it's like, time zones and you're tired and you work at night. And I'm like, I'm a workaholic. I would absolutely love that. Like the lack of sleep, and that's where I take my fuel from. I don't know why, but I think tour managing or production management is something I would absolutely love. But that's Coda aside, because I don't know where Coda is going. I feel like it's growing more and more, and it could lead to something bigger if we take the right moves and the right steps. I don't know first of all, what Coda will become and what my spot in Coda will become too. we'll see that in the future. But I think Coda's side, it would probably be tour management or something related to that.
There is this producer in my country called Marius Mobile, which he kind of made himself into, like, he branded himself into like a little genius. So everybody just came to him. Whenever you want a hit song, you just go to him. And his dream was to produce for the American people and to have his name on the biggest records in the world. And he kind of had a similar situation going on like you have with Coda, where he was making a lot of money doing this stuff right here, and he just quit and left this behind, and he flew, like, all the money he made here, he didn't spend it in America, just trying to get stuff going, and he was constantly like coming and going from there. And that's why I'm asking you specifically, because
I mean, that, first of all, that's an interesting story. Good for him if he achieved his dream. That's absolutely amazing. The thing is, and that's the weird situation with Coda right now, is we created that as a way to understand the industry. First of all, for us, that's how it started before going in like public and everything. First of all, for us, so we could better understand it and then work in it, and then for other people. But the thing is, at first it was a way for us to understand where we wanted to work. So it would be a little weird, in my opinion, for this to be my only job. If it ever becomes something viable that makes money, that all of that. It would be weird for that to become my only job, me teaching about the music industry without ever having worked in it. It would be a little weird, I mean, I've done internships and I'll continue to do internships, especially next year, but still, it's kind of like I would need to have an actual job with actual people before, like, if I really want to be, I'd say, relevant in that. And it's something like, imposter syndrome is very big at the moment. But and also the whole reason why I wanted to start in the music industry is to work close with artists to achieve their vision, and basically anything very tour management, or another thing I'm super interested in is creative direction, which is anything visual, or basically just taking the music and making it an album, making it the cover of the album, the photo shoots, the music videos, the lights at the concerts, all of that. And it's something I'm so interested in, that I would love to do, but I don't know if it will ever happen. I'm fingers crossed it will. But I feel like I would need this experience in the actual music industry before getting into Coda full time, I would say.
See, this is very rare. People confuse knowledge with experience a lot, especially now in the era of Google and everything. You can Google, and whatever you have a question, you just Google stuff. But experience cannot be replaced by anything. Experience, living something, being there, feeling how it feels. Getting the feel of the room and the sound of the people, like the 100,000 people concerts and venues and all of that. That's the kinds of problems you face when you have that type of stuff. That's irreplaceable, and you would never get that just off of, I don't know, theoretical.
Exactly. I completely agree with that. It would be weird, and I feel like I would always miss something if it was just theoretical knowledge. I really think we need that professional experience before getting any. And I mean, Coda, like, what I like about Coda right now is that because we're all students and learning at the same time, we know where we're coming from. And like what we understand and what we don't understand, which I feel like professionals, when they talk about this industry, have kind of forgot where they started. So they don't realize that the most basic things we don't know. I had an amazing class at UCLA last semester, and they were talking, and they never explained the difference between what's the agent and what's the tour manager. And so the agent basically is like booking the shows, and the tour manager is actually the one traveling with the artists and making the shows happen. And so most of the students were asking questions to the agent as if it was the person that was on the road. And I was like, this is just the basics, but most people don't understand it until you explain it to them. And so the professor was like, why are those questions? Like, what the hell? Like, why do you ask that? But it's because you never explain, because you assume that we know. But I feel like that's our strength in Coda right now, is because we know where we're coming from. We know how to use the proper word to explain to the people who are in the exact same situation as us. We understand the struggles, and we understand what is understandable, what is not, and what we should explain and what we shouldn't, what is already a given. And this is, I think, why a lot of students have come back being like, yeah, I understood stuff that I've never understood before, because you knew how to put the words into like what people usually don't explain. So that's a strength right now, and I hope it stays that way. But if we want to go bigger and I think more in depth, we will need that professional experience in the future.
That's powerful, because you are the owner. Well, you're part of the project, and you're also the user and the consumer kind of at the same time.
Yeah.
So you can see both sides of the spectrum.
Exactly.
So far, what are the things you've learned never to do in this industry, and what are the things you learn always to do in this industry?
Wow, never to do. Let me think about that. I'll start with what to do in this industry. Talk to people, reach out to people. It's all about, this industry is all about network. That's the reality of it. And at first I was like, oh my God, this is so unfair, because that was my French point of view speaking, of course. But it actually kind of makes sense to a certain extent, because if people see your work, believe in you, and then recommend you to someone else, they will more, if someone in Coda right now would have been like, I have this friend, he's an amazing graphic designer, and he did this and this and that, I would probably listen to the advice of my friend who knows this graphic designer, rather than someone I've never ever met. Also, if he's friend with my friend, he's probably going to be friends with me, because same vibe, same, same kind of like work. Anyway, same, it would fit kind of. So I kind of understand where that comes from. And yeah, I think the music industry, the best thing you can do is talking to people, asking questions, reaching out. Like it makes such a difference. It makes you understand what actually you're getting yourself into. It makes you get those people to know your name also, because maybe if someday they need someone, they'll be like, oh, I remember that person talked that they were super, like said that they were super, they wanted to try this out, like amazing, I have a spot in my team I would need to fill. Like, just network, it's so important. And what not to do, oh my God, what not to do. I don't know if I've been to that place yet where I've made a huge mistake where I know what to avoid. Yeah, I don't know. There's nothing that comes to mind right now. Yeah, I don't know.
Maybe from other people's experience?
What is something that is, I don't know.
A no, like the biggest no that you know of.
Do you have any ideas of what not to do?
I do, but it's not tested. It's second-hand information. What I've heard of, it's kind of a continuance of what you said about the networking thing. The networking thing is very true, and I found it to be like very true as well, and it definitely works. However, there is a flip side to that coin, which is the fact that this is a what have you done for me lately type of industry. So sometimes some people are going to ask you for favors. Sometimes some people are going to like, can you draw a Kitai line here? Can you be on my project? Can you be in my video? Can you help me with this? Can you whatever? Not necessarily the highest paid things, or not necessarily to advance your career, but the fact that if you help or not, if you choose to help a person or not, that can have ramifications on your future career. And this is in entertainment in general. So not helping certain people, whether, I don't know, you're that type of person or not, whether you're just focused on your things or not, it's very tempting to just put yourself in a cocoon and said, like, I'm working on my stuff. Nah, this is a community, and we gotta work together. This is a network. This is a ecosystem.
Yeah, this makes me think of two things that my professors at UCLA have told me. First of all is make yourself useful, especially when you're starting out. Help anyone you can. Like if someone is asking you for something, and of course you need to have the time, like don't put your health in danger for anything, but be useful in any way, shape, or form. If you have some free time, try to show up at a venue and ask if they need anything. Like just be useful for anyone, because if you're useful to them in the future, they won't hesitate to come back to you if they're looking for something or need anything. So basically do everything you can and be here. It's like that. It's be here, be present kind of. And for what not to do, I remember one of my professors telling me that you should always listen before you talk when you talk with an artist. It's never, I think you should do this and this and that. It's first of all, listen to everything they have to say, listen to their vision, understand it before you actually say, yeah, I think you should do this. I think this is a good or bad idea. You should never come in a meeting with everything already planned out and not listen to what they have to say first. You should always listen to the people you're interviewing, or like not interviewing, working for. Just basically understanding before actually just getting your ideas out there. So I thought, I've never put that into, I don't know if this is something that is actually relevant. I mean, it makes sense, because if I was an artist and I couldn't put a single word because the label would tell me you should do this and this and that before even listening to me, I think I would be pissed. So it kind of makes sense. But this one really struck, and I don't know why when you started talking about this came back, but it really stuck with me for sure.
I've never heard this, but it makes amazing sense. You put it perfectly. This is exactly why we have these kinds of discussions, we learn from each other. So in our first conversation, we touched on a common vision that we have, taking inspiration from the South Korean music and film culture, and the way they successfully invested and grew it into basically an international export product, using the same framework, but adapt it to the European culture in terms of music and movies and entertainment, with the purpose of making it competitive on a global level, just like the South Koreans did with K-pop and Parasite, like the movie and so on. Yeah. Well, what would we need to reach that level, in your opinion, realistically?
I think the first thing that we need to decide as Europeans is, do we brand ourselves as Europeans or do we brand ourselves as individual countries? And I don't think I have the response for that yet. I think this is a discussion that we kind of should have inside the music industry. I think the music is so different from one country to another. Each has their own like favorite favorite genre and like type of sounds. So it would be kind of hard to brand ourselves as European rather than the individual countries. But I think also branding ourselves as European could get us further. So I don't know. I don't have a response for that yet. It's something that we should talk about. But then I think and I talk with the French perspective, because that's the industry I know the most, and I wouldn't want to talk about any other because I don't know what the others are doing. I think what we're missing in France is exporting our own artists. I don't think we're even trying, honestly. We have artists that I feel would be successful in the international scene, even though French is not the most common talked language, and like Korean, nobody talked Korean, like not a lot of people, and now everyone is listening to their music and learning Korean. So I don't think the language barrier is such like an issue, but I definitely think that the French music industry is not pushing their artists into international level. They're staying into what they know, their comfort zone basically. And it's kind of sad. They should try to export it more. But at the same time, we're a very specific industry because we're very French focused and we don't listen to a lot of international artists. So I don't know how this like reverse exchange would work. But I do think we need to open ourselves more and then share ourselves more. And that goes through maybe sending our artists into festivals, international festivals of music. I don't think we're doing that. We receive a lot of international artists, but I don't think we're sending any of them. I think doing more international concerts, but in smaller venues, because of course, if you're doing arenas in France, maybe you're not going to do arenas in the United States, but maybe you could do a couple of shows in like smaller venues to kind of start. Because I feel like today, the way people discover music is either through concerts and festivals, because when you go to a festival and you watch an amazing concert, you're going to remember that. The number of artists I've followed and now listen to their music, I don't think I would have listened to their music if I found it on Spotify. But having this like music remember this moment at a festival and at a concert, like the link between the two makes you want to listen more and understand the artist and everything. So you need to get your music out there first. And the other thing I think we use a lot to discover music these days is TikTok, for sure. Like most of the artists I'm listening to right now, I discovered on TikTok. Some are amazing, by the way, and some I think will do amazing careers in the past. I think French artists are not using it right now, at least not properly. And I mean, it's something that if they want to, I mean, I would recommend using it if you want to export yourself. But yeah, it's just, I feel like we're not putting our name out there. We're kind of staying into what we know. And I don't know why, because I've never been in the French music industry. I've never had an internship here. This is another issue because internships here are super hard to get and almost impossible. But yeah, I don't know why they decide to do that, because we have amazing artists that would be amazing internationally, for sure.
Speaking to your first point about the fact that we are whether to brand ourselves as Europeans or as different individual countries, America has different sounds. Like the country sound is the country sound, the Atlanta sound is the Atlanta sound, the Cali, Los Angeles sound is that sound, the New York sound is different. So we think as them as all Americans, but within America, that's all very, different and diverse. So we have that kind of diversity as well. I don't think that's a bad thing. I think that's a good thing. Actually, what we do need to share is resources and information, I think, more, and things like this.
Yeah.
But I diverge. With the global music scene as it is now, as you see it, where do you think it's heading? Would you like to see a kind of specific change? Do you hear, have you heard a new sound that you like?
I mean, first of all, positive things to observe. I think when I was growing up, most of the music came from America or the UK, but for me it was the same thing because I didn't understand. It was English basically, and it was kind of only that. We only had this, and of course the music from my own country, but I think it was kind of the same for everyone. And I've been very pleased to see for the past few years that first of all, Latin music has taken much more bigger space, and that now we actually hear on French radio Rosalia, Bad Bunny, J Baldwin, yeah. I don't know how, basically all these people, we're hearing more and more of them, and they're actually taking some type of space. And even in France, I feel like these artists kind of succeed more than American ones now. So I really like seeing those different types of sounds. And also, as we talked about, the K-pop, the Korean industry, which is now taking much more space than it ever was before. So I really like seeing that America is kind of not the only power, soft power and music power right now. And it's actually giving more space to other artists. Now, what I would like to see in the future is a broader range of music. I feel like Africa has a lot to offer, and we haven't heard about them a lot. but they're doing music. It's just that we haven't heard about it, but they're doing stuff. I'm thinking of Burna Boy right now in mind. Another one that I absolutely love is I don't want to mispronounce the name.
I think.
Ooh, good one, yeah. But I was thinking of Fatoumata Diawara. I'll pronounce it in French.
Okay.
Yeah, like they have interesting sounds. These are like I would say most famous artists that we know of, but they have also their own sounds and diversity of sounds in Africa. And I would love to hear more about that. I would love to hear more about the Middle East too. I feel like Turkey right now is getting more and more of in the cinema scene, for instance, but they're doing a lot of shows that people are actually, I hear my friend talking about Turkish show right now, and I'm like, how, you know? So I feel like they could also like the Middle East could have much more, could grow too. So I would really like if we can get those different sounds of the world more space, and that would mean a little bit less space for the US. I don't know if they will accept that, but getting more diverse sound out there. And I feel like we're on the right path for sure, because it's starting to appear, but we should really think of like those other countries that we haven't paid attention to for now.
The main language barrier, I think, is easily step overable. I think this, pardon my English, this is not obviously the proper way to say it, but like some people still don't want to listen to music that they don't understand. But at the end of the day, music is music, and if it sounds good, even though you don't understand, you get the energy and you feel the vibe and you see the video and you get into the mood. That's the thing about art. It doesn't necessarily need to translate for you to feel it.
I completely get that. And I would also like to say that when we were kids, we did not understand English and still would listen to the English tracks. Like I remember some of the songs that I listened to when I was a kid, I now understand the lyrics and I'm like, what the hell? Like, why was I singing that? I was not singing it, by the way. I was just like rumbling stuff that didn't make sense. But it still worked because there is still the music behind it. There's the instrument, there is the rhythm. And I feel like a lot of music that succeed right now are rhythm based and like have a strong rhythm that you can physically understand. I don't know if that makes sense. Your body understands it before getting to the lyrics and anything. So you're right. I don't think the language barrier is an excuse anymore.
Do you know those sometimes major labels do these kinds of retreats, you know, with artists and producers and so on, where they can just go to the seaside or mountainside or whatever, somewhere remote, where they can work and vibe and freestyle and all that. You know, I'd really love to see all of the like representatives of European countries, and not just Europeans, like South Koreans as well, you know, like Latin artists as well, Russian artists as well, like everybody just in one place, just vibing, just freestyling and chilling, and just to be a fly on that wall, just to be in that space and that creative juice is going on. That's something I'd pay money for, not just a concert.
That would be amazing.
Yeah. No language, no nothing, just music.
Yeah, it would be, I don't even know if they've ever tried doing that with multiple artists in the same spot. Or even if it was even I would say management, but like the label heads of different countries. That would be interesting if they could, because I know they probably get on the phone sometimes, but actually have that moment. We're doing economic summit and like political summit. Why not do a music one?
Exactly.
Music industry summit, or people can actually kind of brainstorm ideas for their different countries or learn from each other. That's something I really learned with Coda too. I love talking with other student initiatives or startup that are starting out, because we learn so much from each other. Like I think a couple of weeks ago, I was talking with a management company that is starting by student, which is called Jaded Production. And like, just by talking about our organization and how we worked, I shared with her, yeah, we get organized this way, and that's why we're doing. And she was like, oh, for us, it's this way. And so she learned from our organization system, and I learned from hers, and we kind of shared those ideas, you know. And like basically, you kind of, by talking with other people doing kind of the same stuff, you can learn so much. So why? I think these, even the heads of these labels could learn so much from like, yeah, we tried this worked out amazingly. Like right now, what is doing Maneskin in Italy, like they're getting propelled on the international scene. There's something that they're doing that is right. And the French music industry could learn a lot from what the Italian one is doing. So I'd say just get these people into a room and make them talk. That would be absolutely amazing.
That's mentorship for an artist, you know?
Yeah.
I would like to take our chat to a more philosophical / spiritual level, if you're okay with it.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think it was Friedrich Nietzsche that said that if your why is powerful enough, you can go through any circumstances that's in the way of it, that's getting in the way of it. Like all of the hows, you know, if the why is important enough, then the how is gonna more or less appear somehow. So what would you say is your why? The reason for being, the reason for doing what you do, all of these things.
I think, okay, this is a very deep question. I like it. First of all, I would just like to say that when I was a kid, I was asking why all the time, and it's annoyed my parents so much. They were like, why are you asking about this? Like, no, we don't have the responses. And I think this is something that I'm still doing to this day, questioning literally everything in this society, everything that we've built, everything that we found. When someone is like, but this is normal, this is how it should be. Why? Why should it be like that? There is no, and I think what's one thing that really slapped me in the face last year was kind of understanding that everything that we have in this society, we've built it ourselves. The rules, we've created it ourselves. If tomorrow we decided to not, we all collectively decide that a piece of paper is not called money anymore, and it isn't valuable anymore, it would lost all its value because we just all believe it has value. Yeah. So basically kind of like that's the, for me, in a sense, the world doesn't make any sense, which
the world is a joke which is taken serious.
Exactly, that's a good one. Yeah, but it doesn't necessarily make sense. So in that matter, why? Yeah, I'm just doing what I want to do and doing what I feel is important to make it a better place, even though it doesn't make much sense. And sometimes, yeah, right now what is important to me is educating and education, and Coda is a part of that. I just choose the music industry because it's something I'm very passionate about. In the more like higher level, I would love for everyone to be properly educated. I don't know why this is something that is so passionate in my, like, to me, but it's and so yeah, I don't know what is my why. I just want to make this world make a little more sense. And yeah, because right now it's just, you can do pretty much, yeah, I don't know how to explain it. It's a very deep thing. I just, yes. I don't, yeah.
Maybe it wasn't the best question to ask in such, like, in this format of a podcast, but I personally love these deep philosophical things, you know. It's the discussions around them are very revealing and can often lead to those aha moments, you know, like those yeah. Like light bulb flips in your mind, and you're like, okay, now it makes sense. Now, just to make the world make a little bit more sense for you, not for everybody else. It's enough for yourself. So, yeah, that's what I don't even really know my answer as well. I'm just curious if
I've never thought about it. If I had a little more time, I'm probably going to think about this after the podcast. But
I'm probably going to ask you this again.
It's a very good question, like the why. Yeah, it's a very good question. I would say, generally speaking, what drives me in my life is that because this word make no sense to me, you can do pretty much what you want. And you shouldn't, that's something I learned last year, is that most of the barriers that we put ourselves are the one that we created for ourselves.
Mental.
Nothing tells nothing tells you can't do this or that. Then you have to have the means to do this, and you have to, of course, have the support system to do it. And that's another question, because not everyone has the same support system and not everyone is as privileged. But nothing tells you, societally speaking, that you can't do something. This is just wrong. So at this certain point, just do whatever you want to do, as long as it doesn't hurt any other people. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's another topic which is a bit sensible, because let's say you have a company and you're doing very well and you're getting a lot of market share. You're basically hurting your competitors. So even if you're doing something well for yourself and for your customers, you're gonna hurt somebody. So that's
Yeah.
There's
another level to that. Yeah. It makes sense. I don't have the response to everything. I'm still kind of young. I'll figure it out.
I don't think we do. Right. Nobody really does. So how about this then? 100 years from now, when we're all gonna be long gone, what would you like to be remembered for, as an entrepreneur as well as a person, or as a professional?
Fun fact, a lot of my friends are like, yeah, I want to do something that makes me memorable and that makes me, I don't know why this is not something that I'm very interested in. I don't know why. I think a lot of people want to have their name stay in some matter. I don't want my name to stay. Like, this for me doesn't really matter. I would like, in the time that I'm alive, to do something that changes the life of other people, like that helps other people. Basically, if I could help someone achieve their dream, or if I could help someone do what they want to do, and for me, again, that's through education, I've repeated that multiple times, that's something that would be enough for me. In terms of like the remembering and everything, I don't know. I really don't know. I just want to be remembered positively as someone who did something good, but then other than that, I don't know, startup entrepreneur, I don't know, businesswoman, I really don't know that yet, and it doesn't really matter to me in a sense.
I think Ricky Gervais kind of transmitted the same idea that you had when he was asked, like in a talk show interview or something like that, what would you like on your tombstone to be written? Like, he came, have a laugh, then went. Something like that.
Yeah,
exactly.
Simple. Yeah, because there is so much also, even if like 100 years from now, people will be remembered. If this planet continues to go on and on for years, like, you'll be forget at a certain point. Like, I don't know why you would be remembered. So I don't know. The idea of being remembered for me is not something that is necessarily very important. You should live your life right now and do the most of it right now. Yeah.
I think the paradox is that these exact same kinds of people like yourself that just want to live in the moment and make the most of it and all of that, their achievements are going to be remembered, and they are going to eventually be remembered for them, even though they're not trying to, or they're not focusing on it. And all those people trying to get after it and trying to like chase the limelight and so on, they're really not going to get there, or not in the way they thought they would, at least. So yeah,
we'll see. The future will tell.
How do you feel about the law of attraction, though? Do you believe in that?
I think to a certain extent it must be true. Now how, I don't know. I think in any case, if you reinforce something that you want every day, I don't know if it's something exterior that will make it happen to you, but you will convince yourself. I don't know how to say that, but it's kind of a way to stay motivated too. I think the whole thing behind the law of attraction, of like repeating, writing, remembering what you want, like always keeping your goals in mind. It's just a way to also stay on your path and remember your goals and always you're basically taking steps toward this goal all the time. So I feel like in a certain sense it's true and it's happening, but I also feel like sometimes you have, and I'll tell a little story of mine for that matter, but last year at this exact time, I didn't know if I wanted to pursue the music industry or not. The other thing I was very hesitant on is space engineering. Nothing to do with the music industry. Everyone is always laughing when I say that, but physics and just rockets and everything that has to do with space is something that I was super passionate about when I was younger, and I'm still super passionate about, and I follow closely anything space related. And so I really was hesitant behind all of that. And so at that time last year, I was desperately trying to get an internship and anything related to this, like the science field. I had one mentor who was part of the European national, wait, how do you say that again? European, I have it in French, space agency. Yeah, European Space Agency. And he was pushing me literally, like the guy was a member of that. Nothing happened. Like I found no internship, like nothing. I applied to like 100 of them, like try to find everything to get an internship as a space field. Try to do everything that I could, getting those classes and like math and stuff. Nothing worked. And then when I got into the music industry, I didn't even try. Everything worked. I didn't even try and got my first internship just because one other person was like, yeah, you should, I have this friend, he would love to have you on board. Like, I didn't even apply 100 times. I applied once, didn't even write a cover letter and got in. Like, it felt like everything, Coda, the whole Coda thing doesn't make any sense. Like how it got created, how it's working right now, the fact that we all had the people that we need, like it makes no sense. So I feel like sometimes you're trying stuff in life and it's kind of like you're swimming against the current. It's just not happening. You're trying hardest as you can. It's not happening. And then sometimes you swim, I don't know, like at the same time as the current, and it just propels you so fast. And it kind of shows what is for you, what is not for you. It's kind of like life pushing you in the right direction or in just showing you what's the right step for you. And I really believe that there's some type of force in this universe that's kind of like helping you out and that is telling you where you should go and where you shouldn't go. I really believe in that. Is it law of attraction? I don't know. And in a sense, I think the law of attraction exists. I just don't know how to apply it necessarily very well. But I really do believe that there's something out there that is just helping you out at certain points. And you don't really know why. It's just, I don't know.
When you stop trying, it appears, it seems.
Yeah, maybe.
Do you have any personal mantras, like things that you constantly reaffirm, habits, routines?
I have a lot of quotes that are, in my opinion, that I always have. It's actually in my desktop on my computer. Like I have the quotes on top left. I'd say the one that really defines most of what I'm doing right now is take calculated risks. And it's very similar to one of my best friends' mantra, which is do it scared. It's basically, in my opinion, if you're not taking any risks, you're not gonna hit the jackpot. Like it's like anything for the lottery or when you play poker. I don't know how to. Yeah, poker. If you're playing with the most risk, you can win very high or you can lose very low. And I think in the take calculated risk, the calculated part is basically if you're taking that risk and when you take that risk, you have to agree to the worst case scenario. Like, okay, if I'm doing that, I know this is the worst that could happen and I'm willing to take that risk. Yeah. So it's not just take risks, it's take calculated risk. Try to think of the consequences because first of all, you don't know what's the best that could happen. That's something, but the worst that could happen most of the time, Yeah. Like it's like, okay, if I do this, maybe I'll finish unemployed and then I lose my house and then I'll like, you kind of know, you know, but the best you don't. And that's the like fun part, but you need to take risks if you want
Indeed.
to hit the jackpot kind of. That's one of the best like things. And then the quote that really kind of again slapped me in the face last year, and it's kind of the reason that pushed me into the music industry, is if you're happy doing what you're doing, nobody can tell you you're not successful. Just massive slap in the face. Because I was born in France. I was born in a strict family where basically everything art related was not seen as prestigious and successful. You need to be a doctor, you need to be a lawyer, you need to be a scientist, you need to engineer, you need to be all of that. But art is just a waste of your talent, a waste of your skills. It's just not good. So I kind of pursued that this entire time of being like, okay, I'm gonna work in politics, be an economist. It made me miserable. It made me, I didn't want to do that. I was so miserable. And I just heard that and I was like, okay, it kind of makes sense. Why would success be, okay, now people see you as someone intelligent? It shouldn't be, because first of all, why would you care about the opinion of other people? But second of all is, what if you're really happy doing what you're doing? You're gonna be successful. Like nobody can tell you, okay, no, now, bye. You know, I don't know. It was like very much of a slap in the face, and it kind of redefined my notion of success. And through that, I was like, okay, I don't care. I'm doing music now. Like, I know this will make me happy, and doesn't matter how rich or poor I will be, it will make me happy. And that's what matters the most.
Amazing. I love hearing this. And especially I love hearing this from you, you know, because there's a lot of people my age or older that's still very, very close in that kind of old school mentality. You got to do what you got to do, you know, you don't.
Yeah.
No, the best car is the one you like. The best girlfriend is the one you love. You know, it's not necessarily the things you see on TV or the latest commercial or whatever, you know. It's the same thing here. Now, I would love to transition a little bit into technology and future opportunities, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
What are the biggest development opportunities you see for young artists these days? Stuff that maybe didn't exist 5 or 10 years ago.
I think internet has completely revolutionized the way we do music business and just what like an artist's life is. I think 20 years ago, you needed to be found by a label if you wanted to produce your own music, because you needed the studio, you needed the huge computers and the huge consoles and everything. You needed that, and you needed the money because all of that costs so much. And today, and you needed the distribution company, you needed everything if you wanted to put your music out there. Today, if you have a good computer and the good software, you can produce your own music. You have TuneCore if you want to distribute your own songs, which doesn't cost much. You have basically everything very close to you, which makes doing your own music easier than ever before. You can be an artist if you want to be an artist. You don't need someone to a certain extent. Because I think the downside of that is now to actually be spotted by a label and sign in a label, they expect you to do so much more than they expected before. Like they expect you to already have a platform on Instagram and have that much followers.
Yeah,
and
mixtape is no longer enough.
Yeah, if you have the right amount of followers, they will sign you whatever, because they know that the music will sell anyways. Like even if you're doing horrible music, if you have 3 million followers, and we see that with influencers and like TikTokers right now, like one with 10, 20, they're doing music. They're signed, whatever, because they're gonna sell anyways. So they're expecting much more from you now, and it's much more complicated to actually get to that like bigger level. It's easier to be like a smaller artist and get started and do shows in your own city and all of that, but it's so much harder to get to like the bigger level, I think, in my own opinion. So it's like kind of a downside. It's easier than ever to become an artist, but getting to like being propelled is more complicated. So I don't know. It's very interesting times. I think the way smaller artists could really profit for that from that whole time and things is to kind of group each other. Like I'm seeing producers on Instagram, on TikTok, and I'm seeing singers on TikTok. Like, why don't you guys try to do something together? You're all in the same spot. Like, and I've seen one girl do that, and she got propelled like number, I don't know how many in the radio charts and everything. And I was like, wow. The girl literally just put that on TikTok. A producer found it, produced her music. They met, they finished the thing, did a music video, boom. You know, I feel like if those like, I want to do music videos, I want to produce music, I want to sing, I want to be a photographer. If they all kind of create this little band together, they could really do networking. Again, the same thing. But yeah, I think that's like the best thing that could happen for artists right now, because the technology is here. It's already here. I don't know how it will evolve. I have no idea. But doing your own music and distributing it has been easier than ever before. I don't know if it'll become easier than that, but we're already there. So now it's just how to do it to your advantage, I'd say.
What about people who want to get started in the music business, but not necessarily in the limelight, like yourself, for example? Talking about A&Rs, booking agents, curators, and so on. Do you think it's easier for them to get their foot in the door today than it was years ago? Or what's your advice for them?
I don't know if it's easier for them. I think first of all, it depends on the country you're from. I really want to reinforce that. If you're in the US, I think it's easier for you. If you're in a country like France or a smaller country where the music industry is not that big, it's probably more complicated. What I realized in France, for instance, is that most of the people working in labels right now have never done any studies. They started right after high school. But now if you want to work in France in a label, you have to do at least a master's degree. 5 years of education. When, bear in mind, there is no music business program in all France.
So far.
So far. So you're studying for 5 years, something that has nothing to do with the music business, just so you can get a job. And then you'll have to learn everything anyways, because you couldn't learn that in school. So I'm just like, it's not easier than ever before. It's actually harder for such countries. With like those new, because again, it makes no sense. The people on top haven't studied, but they're asking the people at the bottom to have. It's just makes no sense to me when the education doesn't add anything. So it's just like, yeah, I don't get it. I think for the US it might be a little different though. They have a lot of opportunities that didn't exist before. They have internships program that are specifically designed to teach them, to have classes, to have mentors, to have all of that. It's not like the internships like in France where you just get in and start working. It's like actual training programs. They have marketing rep positions. You're in college, you can work for a label as a marketing representative. We don't have that here. They have like the Grammy U. They have so many different things that I feel it's easier, and the people from the generation before didn't have those things. They didn't have internships. They needed to start with like buying coffee for their colleagues and then starting to gradually, you know. So I feel like for them, it's a little easier. So it really depends on the country you're from and the opportunities that are given to you. There's this producer who's now the head of a label. He's called Alex Salivian. I don't know how to pronounce his name in English. He said, talent is equally distributed around the world, but opportunity is not. Yeah. And it's something I truly resonate with. And I repeat it all the time, because that's exactly what's happening in the music industry. Where you're born and the citizenship you have can really impact whether you're successful or not. And that's kind of sad.
Let's change that.
Yes, I really hope so. Yeah.
Okay, lastly, tell the people what you have, what to expect in the future, both from Coda Collectiv and from yourself. Any new projects, new initiatives, things you're working on that will come out in the near future.
So for Coda first, I think our goal is to really grow the team We already started recruiting new people, and I'm super excited about that. We received them this week, and they're very excited and passionate about it. And I think having more people in the team will allow us to really go to that next level. We're really hoping to become a resource that all students and all aspiring musicians and artists and music business people can use to grow and understand the industry. We want in the future to translate the pages in different languages so it's easier for people. And when I say translate, it's just not like translating the words, it's translating the positions too. Because I know in France, we don't have the same position in a label, exactly the same as it is in the US. The names sometimes are completely different, or the way the work is divided is completely different. So it's going to be a hard work, and I don't expect it to be right now. But in the end, I really want this to be like more of a global platform, and a platform that teaches about the different industries. What's the difference between the European and the Korean and the American and the Latin American one? The way, how is business done differently? Like what to expect when you want to do business with a French artist, kind of like this platform that can really help making music even more global. Creating bridges and making the music even more global than it is now through education. So that's, I think, Coda's goal in the long term. We always use two words, education and international, because most of our team is international people, and this is really what we want to reinforce. So this is what you could expect from Coda in the future. On my personal end, for now, I don't have any other initiatives that I want to create, just because Coda is taking so much time and it's already quite a lot. And I really want to focus on that to make it the best. And then for my own professional career, so I'm moving to LA in a month and a half, and I'm going to do internships. I'm going to learn. I'm going to meet people. So I really hope that through that, I can kind of show the way for other European people that going to the US is possible, because the US is kind of complicated to get in with the visas and all of that. And I kind of want to be the crash test. Like, okay, I'm going to try to make that work, and hopefully it works so I can help other European people and other international students in general, to show that it's doable and help them out in the future. Because right now I'm struggling to find everything by myself and make it make sense and understand the legal stuff and understand all of that, which is not easy at all. But I kind of want to show that it's actually possible, and I really hope it is. That's pretty much it.
Amazing. Lou, thank you. This was really insightful. A lot of interesting points. I took quite a few mental notes, and I'm really excited to see your stuff everywhere in the future.
Thank you very much. This was an amazing conversation. I love the philosophical part. I'll really think about that question all day now. That was, super amazing podcast, by the way. I'm really excited to see other episodes and hear other episodes.
Thank you.